an addiction. And this proposition, Prop 46, will stop that in its tracks because it will require doctors to check a patient's history and the need for medication before prescribing. And so with that, I want to Sarah Hitchcock.
Thank you, Bob. I'm Sarah Hitchcock Glover. I live in the Santa Cruz Mountains in Los Gatos. I'm here to tell you about our 12-year-old son, Adam Glover, who died from medical negligence. Adam was climbing in Yosemite with his father when he became ill with abdominal pain and vomiting. Appendicitis was suspected. We consented to the surgery, convinced by the surgeon that a CAT scan wasn't necessary. We later learned that Adam's appendix was not so inflamed as to warrant surgery, but there were other findings in his abdomen which should have brought immediate action. He was handled as a routine appendectomy patient without seeing a pediatrician. Since he was just a routine patient, it was authorized to stop monitoring his O2 saturation. Adam's condition seems to deteriorate. We pointed out his elevated heart rate, lowered blood pressure to his doctor. He was not bouncing back as we all had expected. The surgeon put a hand on my shoulder saying, "He is fine, don't worry." 3 hours later, I was helping Adam walk across the room. He collapsed in my arms from cardiac arrest. There was a calamitous code blue, and Adam died after 8 hours on life support. Basic lab tests would have shown he was going into organ failure. A pediatrician would have known that a child will compensate when going into shock, masking outward symptoms. After Adam's death and an incompetent autopsy, 5 physicians reviewed Adam's records. They all said that he had the classic signs of hypovolemic shock. This was an easily preventable death of our only child. We still need answers, and we deserve accountability 6 years later. When children, seniors, stay-at-home moms die from medical negligence, the 39-year-old cap on damages in the state of California prevents too many cases from being heard. Lessons are not learned. This cap enriches the insurance industry, and it protects negligent doctors by putting them outside the reach of judicial accountability. How dare the opposition to Prop 46 say that this is simply about money for attorneys? This is about my family and too many others. It repulses me to hear the No on 46 ads. The Sacramento Bee calls these claims in their ads misleading. I would say they're fraudulent, and that misleading is an understatement. The increase proposed by Prop 46 simply adjusts the cap to accommodate for nearly 4 decades of inflation. Passage of 46 would make justice accessible to those already victimized by malpractice. I encourage you, please, to vote yes on Prop 46 to reduce health care costs. Thank you very much. We should do it.
Well, as you can see, what we're up against, this truly is a David versus Goliath situation. We have moms who are hurting, emotionally hurting through the loss of children or loved ones and taking on big special interests. And the reason Prop 46 is on the ballot is because we, this group and many others, we've already exhausted the legislature in California. We've tried to get this through. And the special interests are so powerful in Sacramento, they prevented it. So with that, next is Linda Wilkinson.
My name is Linda Wilkinson. I'm here with my husband, Doug, and this is our daughter, Brittany. Brittany lived 18 years with mitochondrial disease, and that is a disorder that affects every cell in your body except red blood cells. Most children don't live past infancy or toddling years, and especially not past their puberty years. Brittany was 18, and at age 16, she developed a different syndrome which wasn't related, and it's called pseudotumor cerebri, which is a fake tumor in the head. And boys or girls can get this syndrome. There's no rhyme or reason why. They outgrow it, or they use medication or shunts. Brittany had one shunt put in 2005, and the next year she still had blindness and headache, so she needed a lumbar shunt as well. She continued to have problems and then became over-shunted. So in 2008, we were back and forth to the hospital, Children's Hospital, Central California, with migraine headaches, blindness, and just not knowing what to do. So we went to Stanford, and we were getting a second opinion. They told us that she was over-shunted, but they did not want to help us because they didn't want to be liable for the hardware that was put in her. So they contacted her neurosurgeon at Children's Central. They discussed it, and they were supposed to clamp one shunt, monitor closely, and if she didn't need the other shunt, clamp the second, but if she needed it, they would be aware of it by monitoring. 5 years ago today, I took her to Children's Hospital, and that day they put the ICP monitor on her with the bolt in her brain, monitoring that her pressures were over-shunted. They were in the negative numbers. Therefore, it meant one shunt should be plugged and then monitored closely. They did not have me sign for Brittany since she had just turned 18 in June. And so she wasn't even out of surgery 24 hours, and they had her sign for herself, even though I was right there in the room asleep. They did it at 6 in the morning. So in that note, they took her without consent because you have to be out of anesthetic at least 24 hours. The doctor then took her into surgery and decided to clamp both shunts and didn't tell us. The monitoring was supposed to take place. The nurse was there. Doctor didn't leave any instructions. Doctor did not come and check her after brain surgery. That night, she started the nausea, uncomfortable feeling, in and out of, I thought it was anesthetic. I know now it was consciousness. In and out of a coma. And so by that next morning, she was in tears, screaming for help. Please, somebody help me. Please get my doctor. If you don't want to help me, just let me die. I can't take this pain. By 5:20 that afternoon, still no doctor. She took her last breath, never to breathe or speak again. But we did get a doctor. We got doctors, we got nurses that came to her code blue. They were all there wondering what happened, what to do. And I explained that I had been giving notices to the nurse that the monitor would shoot from 60 to 80 to 30 to minus. So I said, something's wrong with the doctor. Many, many times, we'll just take and watch it, is what the nurse said. So when the intensivist came in and I told him that, you could have heard a pin drop in there because he didn't even know Brittany was in the ICU. So he looked at the monitor and he moved the probe properly in the brain. And our pressures are supposed to be between 4 and 8, and hers were at 177. Therefore, her brain stem was herniated down her spine. And she died the most horrific death after a life of pain and getting over it and doing so much with legislation for mitochondrial disease. She worked very tirelessly. The most unselfish person you'd ever meet. We were going to go to court in January, and the hospital and the doctor settled in December. So we can give scholarship money away in her name, but we still don't have her. Yeah.
Well, it was very courageous. As you can see, one of the realities that Prop 46 will help is get these families accountability and closure. So with that, I want to introduce Claire McCormick.
My name is Claire McCormack, and this is my daughter, Nora. She was 3 years old when she died as a result of medical errors. She was an extremely smart little girl with an irresistible sense of humor and a zest for life. She loved going for bike rides, playing in her kiddie pool, and dancing to music. And even though she had a lung disease that required her to use oxygen and take medication, she was full of so much promise. She faced each challenge with strength and grace beyond her years. Over the course of my pregnancy and Nora's life, my family experienced firsthand the consequences of California's cap on medical malpractice. The cap creates a second tier of medical care for children where mistakes occur far too often because there are no consequences for those errors. For example, during Nora's hospitalization, she suffered from several hospital-acquired bacterial and viral infections. She was mistakenly administered a double dose of a strong medicine that induced acute heart failure. And she was deprived of IV nutrition for several days because of an error by doctors, nurses, and pharmacists. Hospitals have no incentive to invest in better staffing, training, or infrastructure because they are never held accountable for their mistakes. We have not yet been able to find legal representation for Nora's claim because of the cap. I think it is outrageous that healthcare providers and their insurance companies have purchased immunity for the mistakes they make against the most vulnerable members of our society, children, women, and the elderly. The cap has not changed a penny in 39 years, but Prop 46 would finally update it for 39 years of inflation. The opponents of Prop 46 are trying to scare voters by claiming that their health care costs will increase. The truth is that Prop 46 will help to create the incentives needed for change that will result in fewer medical errors and better medical care. Prop 46 is not about money. Prop 46 is about patient safety. Our children deserve better medical care, and they deserve access to justice when they are victims of medical errors. That is why I support Prop 46 and why I ask the voters of California to vote yes on Prop 46.
And now I'd like to introduce you to our senator, a champion of the environment, consumers, and the rights of individuals, Senator Barbara Boxer.
Thank you, sir. I think, can you see me? What can you see me? Okay, I'll try this because I don't like height. I don't like it. It's going to be myself. Okay? It's going to be my little self. I am so proud as one of 2 United States senators from this great state to stand with these mothers. I've not met them before except once with your daughter in Washington, but I feel like I know them because I'm a mother and I'm a grandmother. And I got interested in this issue in the 90s when there was an attempt to set a federal cap. And that bill was written by none other than Mitch McConnell. And that was 2 decades ago. And during the course of that, A mother brought her child to Washington, and she stopped by my office, and we met. I'll never forget this. You know, so many years ago, right in my office in the frame. This was no normal spring break where you bring your child to Washington, because this child was in a wheelchair, permanently and amazingly injured by medical negligence, where there was just no control in that child, no control of movement or anything else. So I remember his eyes looking at me. They had no speech, just saying, "Can you help?" So like the mothers here today, this loving mother, I met them, was introducing us to her child as a reminder of the terrible consequences of medical errors. Now, for those media who are here who don't know this fact, I think I'm going to stun you when I say this. These mothers, they're just not an anomaly. They're not a rare story. Medical errors are the third leading cause of death in America. Let me say that again. Medical errors are the third leading cause of death in America. Only cancer and heart disease take more lives. Make no mistake, medical errors here in California and across the country are a major public health crisis. And Proposition 46 is a critical reform which will prevent medical errors with two simple provisions. First, Proposition 46 corrects an injustice created in 1975, when an arbitrary cap of $250,000 was put in place, even in the case of permanent injury like the one I explained to you, child. Prop 46 simply adjusts the cap for inflation. To me, it's a modest compromise. I don't want any cap. I want to see these cases handled jury by jury by jury by jury, so justice is done. That's the greatness of our system. But obviously, I can't take you there today. But let's just look at this modest increase for inflation. Let's look at the prices. In 39 years ago, California's minimum wage was $2. Now it's 10. A gallon of gas was 57 cents. It's $3.86. A loaf of bread was 28 cents. It's $2.50. The average cost of a car was, in 1975, $4,900. Now it's $32,000. So that puts into perspective the cold injustice of that cap. 39 years old. And the fact that it's been there so long is a testament to the power of the insurance company and the special interest. This cap creates real hardship for families who have experienced the tragic results of medical error. Now I'm going to tell you a story that wasn't told here today, but you can confirm. Steve Olson is blind and brain damaged, cared for by his parents with the help of government aid. He wasn't born this way. He was a victim of medical negligence. It began with a walk in the woods. As a toddler, he fell on a stick while hiking near his aunt's cabin in the mountains near San Diego. The hospital pumped Stephen up with steroids and sent him away with a growing brain abscess. Although his parents had asked for a CAT scan because they knew Stephen was not well. The next day, he came back to the hospital comatose. Medical experts concluded had he received an $800 CAT scan, he certainly would have been successfully treated. He would be a normal young man today. Now he's in his early 20s. Instead, he has to depend on his loving parents for care in every aspect of his life, as well as state taxpayers who help him through government-subsidized medical care and other assistance. These costs are considerable. In one recent year, Stephen had 74 doctor visits, 164 physical and speech therapy appointments, and 3 trips to the emergency room. His parents' attempts to secure accountability were stymied in part by California's $250,000 cap on medical malpractice damage. There was a jury trial. The jury awarded $7.1 million in non-economic damages for Stephen's avoidable life of darkness and suffering. But that award fell by the wayside. Because of the state's 1975 damages cap, the judge was forced to reduce the amount to $250,000. The jurors only found out their verdict had been reduced by reading it in the newspaper, and most expressed outrage upon learning the law they hadn't heard of. It's a law that remains in the shadows today, and we are bringing it out into the open, and we are begging, we are asking, we are prodding California voters to look at this and to take a side, not with the special interest, but with these families. Now, that Olson case is yet another example of what you've heard here. Even when an award seems large, it rarely covers the cost associated with the lifetime of care. $250,000 does in no way compensate the victim and family for the torture that a survivor endured each day they're left confined in a wheelchair, or blind, or brain damaged, or without limb. And here's the important point. Prop 46 will prevent medical errors in the first place, because there's more at stake here. You know, it reminds me of the auto company. They sat down and made a calculation. If 7 people blow up in our car because there's a defect, you know what? Let's leave it. It's no big deal. Trust me when I tell you that this $250,000 cap goes into lots of calculations by insurance companies, and it needs to change. The other thing we do here is we put in place a system of drug testing that's similar to what is used for bus drivers, airline pilots, and others who hold our lives in their hands. Most of us have doctors who we love and respect and appreciate for their skills and their healing. But studies show that doctors are not immune from substance abuse problems. Estimates show 18% of doctors will have a substance abuse problem sometime in their careers. 18% of doctors. Now, this is something very, very important to remember. We can prevent medical errors with a fair system of drug testing of doctors, so that doctors with a substance abuse problem think twice. Think twice. Now we come to the opponents. And I think it was my mom over here said, she can't stand watching you that. I know how you feel. Here's what's so disingenuous. There's a full-throated attack on lawyers, but you never hear them attack their lawyers, do you? You never hear them attack the lawyers that stand side by side with insurance executives or their families when their families get in trouble. Only the lawyers that represent the victims. So let's remember that. If we prevent medical errors in the first place, there won't be any additional costs that save the insurance company. There'll be savings in dollars and in lives saved. We know that when there is more at stake, you will have less of that problem. And when you catch a doctor, by the way, it's random testing, is my understanding, not every time they walk in to do surgery. If you catch a doctor who is addicted, you're going to save a life. And that's going to translate into savings. The choice is clear. Stand with California families or stand with insurers. Now today I am here standing with California families. And I'm going to stand with them. And we're going to win this. Because I'll tell you something. These stories are compelling. And we're going to get them out on the social media. And we're going to be outspent. And that's why I so appreciate those of you who are covering this press conference. We need to count on the media to just tell the story of these families. And the fact that this hasn't been raised in 39 years, this cap, compelling. And that 18% of doctors at some time in their lifetime are addicted to drugs. And if we say that our airline pilots have to be subjected to random testing, the bus drivers, surely this is an excellent reform. I want to thank you, Pat. They have turned, these families, they've turned their grief into action. This is not easy for them. to retell these stories. You all know when something traumatic happens to you, it's like it happened 5 minutes ago. It never fades. And for them to bring back these stories today, it's so courageous of them. And I'm so honored to be here with them.
Senator, do you have a few moments?
I do. I certainly do. I certainly do.
Senator, one of the things that's clearly being cast as the lawyers versus the insurance companies. How do you get past that? Above and beyond what we've done here, how do you get past the fact that I think these guys have something between $30 to $50 million lined up to basically enrich TV and radio stations? How do you get past that? Because the reality is, 30-second ad has a lot of power, especially if you're taking the time and funding.
Well, what you're saying is a fact and evidence that we're going to be outspent, and we know that and we admit it. But I've been outspent in my life. I've been outspent in my life, both in races that I've run and in initiatives that I support. And if we get the truth out, we will win. But you're right. It's an attack on lawyers. But I think that people have to ask the question, what do you mean? What about your lawyers? You're not attacking them. You're attacking the lawyers who have to represent these children. It's shameful. The insurance companies are shameful. They tried to stop health reform. They turned us away when we needed our help. People need to remember, these insurance companies think about their bottom line. They don't think about the lives of them. My job to think about the lives of them. And I just think what we have to do is more presses like this one, more of these fabulous spokespeople getting out there like they did today, courageously, all over, relentlessly. Social media campaign, stand up to the insurance companies, tell the truth, and protect our families. It isn't going to be easy. You've made that point. But we are fighters, and we will fight.
One follow-up. We have a Democratic governor. We have a Democratic legislature. Do you think that one of the tenets of democratic politics is protecting consumers and all that stuff? Why is the legislature apparently incapable of getting this?
You know what? They are what they are. They are what they are. When they are, they do some good things, they do some bad things, and they walk away from some conclusions. I'm not going to comment on that. I'm just going to say this. There is an initiative process in California. Sometimes it's abused, sometimes it's misused. This time it is being used in the right way. And we're going to bypass the government, and we're going to bypass the Democrats and Republicans in the legislature. And we are taking our message straight to the heart and soul of the people. And, you know, there are many things the legislature could do. Look, I'm coming from a dysfunctional place called Washington, D.C., where we can't even pass immigration reform or pass sensible government. I'm not going to trash another legislative body. What I am going to say is put that aside. They are what they are, and they do some good things, and they walk away from other things. Right now, we're here, and we're taking this case to the people. Is it an uphill battle? Yes. Is it a David and Goliath struggle? It is. But we can do this thing, and we are going to push forward. And we're going to try to raise as much money as we can to get our ads on. And we can't go toe-to-toe with the big moneyed interests, but people are smart. And we will go to you. We will continue to use the media and do our best to get this case out. And these cases are compelling.
Senator, that $56 million they have, and there's a lot more coming behind that. They're using it so far to hit on the fact that healthcare costs could go up if malpractice.
Yeah.
If the cap is raised, malpractice premiums will go up. It's sure to be passed on to us, or the OEO, so it could go up. How do you counter that argument? And they're going to come up next to the fight.
Well, it's not a fact and evidence stuff. I looked it up. Take Georgia. In Georgia, the caps were totally taken off, and malpractice insurance costs went down. Okay? Now, you may ask why. It's very obvious. They have no cap, and people are scared to make sure they give them CT scan. They do the right thing. So that is not a fact and evidence. Like everything else they say, it's suspect. Their attack on lawyers is a one-sided attack.
They never attack their own lawyers. They say people are going to cost more when, in fact, we believe costs will go down because people will be more careful and will catch some of these doctors who are addicted to drugs and can't walk into the surgery. So we just don't agree with them. And their next thing is privacy. That's also answerable, and I studied that myself. The fact is we're not creating any new resource here. We're just saying you have to go look at the directory. It's not called a directory. Database. We're not creating a new drug database. We're just telling people to look at it. Just as California just did this in a gun death, where there's a database that already is there, but the police didn't look at it, and some kid who had mental problems got a gun. So all we're saying is look at the information is there. So that's another lie. So they're going to fight us one big lie after the other big lie after the other big lie. And we're not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of them. All the money in the world doesn't scare me. And we are going to continue to fight. This is David and Goliath. And guess what? The last time I checked, people love the David and Goliath. We just have to get it out there. And that's what we intend to do. How could anyone turn away from these women and their stories? I mean, it's impossible. And we're going to get them out there. We're going to get them out of the wet. We're going to, as far as I'm concerned, every one of these spaces should be known commodity by the time we get to the end of it.
Senator, why don't you lump all
Where are you from?
KPSA? Okay. Why lump all three of these things into one measure? I wouldn't have a better chance of passing here three separate measures.
I'll ask the track to answer that question.
Well, as you know, a ballot measure is a very expensive endeavor. It cost us $2 million just to qualify this ballot initiative for the November election. So if we split this up, one part of it would be battling the pharmaceutical industry. One part would be battling the medical malpractice insurance industry. And so we'd have three initiatives which we couldn't afford, and we'd be battling $50 million against one, $50 million. So we have them together for very specific reasons. It's all about patient safety. And this proposition, it's happened to these mothers here, and of course to me and my wife, but it can happen to anyone. And that's why this proposition is going to pass, because it can happen to any family in California. It's not restricted to just health insurance. It's not restricted just to doctors benefiting. It's every Californian can be impacted by this in a huge negative way.
So let me make a point. Everyone is being impacted by it. It's the third leading cause of death in America. We're looking at 200,000 to 400,000 unnecessary deaths a year. Medical errors. And what's the price you pay? You know, something that hasn't been increased in 39 years. That's impossible. It's wrong. So it already is impacting so many of our families. And most are just too distraught to even think about it, talk about it, or do what these brave women have done today. Stand up. Anybody else? One more question? Okay. Yes. No, I'm having a press conference Friday. I will cover everything then from ISIS to Ebola. So from this today, we're going to be here on this subject. So now I think we're going to look at the ad.
Yes. Paul, would you mind helping us hold the
No. Have you seen?
Yeah. Is that enough? Is that enough for you or more? Okay. Is that better?
Okay, everybody quiet. Look at all these children. They all lost their lives because of preventable medical errors. Now the third leading cause of death. Only heart disease and cancer take more lives. Proposition 46 will save lives with drug and alcohol testing. Make sure impaired doctors don't treat someone you love. Safeguards against prescription drug abuse. And hold the medical industry accountable for mistakes. I'm Barbara Boxer. Let's save lives. Vote yes on 46. Look at all these children. They all lost their lives because of preventable medical errors. Now the third leading cause of death. Only heart disease and cancer take more lives. Proposition 46 will save lives with drug and alcohol testing. Make sure impaired doctors don't treat someone you love. Safeguards against prescription drug abuse. And hold the medical industry accountable for mistakes. I'm Barbara Boxer. Let's save lives. Vote yes on 46.
Hold on.
Folks on the phone, we will open up the line in just a second for a few extra questions if you want to hold on. Does all moms want to come back up?
We're doing some questions.
All right, folks on the line, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, it's Melanie Mason with the LA Times. I just was wondering with regards to the details of the television ad, can you talk about how large the buy would be or where these commercials will run?
Here, you want to tell her?
Yeah, no, that's okay. Melanie, this is Carmen Balder.
Hey.
It's possible I can be quiet since we do have you off lecture mode. Melanie, this is Carmen Balder with Consumer Watchdog. The ad is already running online. In 2 weeks, our ads will be on the air in markets across the state. I will tell you that, as Senator Boxer and others have said, we're not going to match the $58 million the insurance industry has already put up to fight us. But we will be competitive on TV and have millions of dollars to get the ads on TV. We're still raising money.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Next question?
Anything shocking so far?
No, not really. I mean, Boxer's rhetoric.
Wait, you have it on mute.
Are there any more questions? All right, then. Thank you, Senator Boxer.
You're welcome.
We'll see each other again, I'm sure. We'll take this on the road. Pictures and stories. I'm just keeping them.
Thank you, everyone on the phone. I'm going to sign off now. If you need more information, of course, you can give us a call. The numbers are on the press release you should have received, but it is 310-403-0284 for Carmen Balder, or you can call Jamie Court in our offices, 310-392-0075, 310-403-0284, 310-392-0075. Thank you.